of Texas is compared with that of the United States, we realize the tremendous expanse of our second-largest state. 6 flags of sovereign powers have flown over the Lone Star State, those of Spain, France, Mexico, the Republic of Texas, the Southern Confederacy, and the United States. It's natural that we are proud of our history, which begins in 1519 as the bold Alonso Pinada sails up the Rio Grande and makes the first map of the Texas coast for Spain. The Yaya Indians on the later site of San Antonio called the area Tejas, meaning friend. By the mid-1700s, 92 expeditions venture into this region of New Spain. Dangers and hardships cause many to lose their lives as they wander lost and bewildered along the banks of the Red River. Franciscan monks proposed a spiritual conquest of Texas and established 12 missions to be maintained by a few priests and soldiers. Civilization, colored with traditions and patterned by robed monks, centers within the thick walls of these presidios or forts. Life follows a routine, guided by the tolling of bells in the towers. San Jose, established in 1720, and the largest in this chain of missions, is famous for its rose window, acclaimed as one of the finest examples of stone carving in America. The purpose of these missions is twofold: to Christianize the Indian and to extend the frontier of the Spanish dominion. In 1821, Stephen F. Austin, a native of Virginia, brings a group known as the First 300, which take a place in Texas history similar to that of their forefathers, the Jamestown and the Plymouth pioneers. His colony grows to 5,000 persons in 10 years. These pioneers possess courage, determination, and vision, and travel for months facing dangers and hardships to reach their destination. As new territory is opened, many Germans, Scandinavians, and French settle in the hill country. They yearn for freedom, religious liberty, and greater self-rule. Mexico will not see eye to eye with her idealistic children and forbids further immigration. A battle at Gonzales foretells of greater bloodshed to come and brings realization to both sides that a revolution has started. An appeal is made for men to come with a good rifle and come soon, liberty or death. The march to San Antonio is on with the new Lone Star flag made by the wife of a volunteer. Santa Anna, Mexican dictator, unleashes 3,000 of his army on the Alamo and slaughters the 187 defenders, led by Colonel Travis, James Bowie, and David Crockett. After the fall of the Alamo, Colonel Fannin surrenders near Goliad, and all 300 of his men are marched out of camp and shot. In March 1836, the Constitution of the Republic of Texas is adopted, and David Burnett elected its provisional president. 1 month later, a tough 6.5-footer named Houston faces General Santa Anna and a force twice the size of his own at a place called San Jacinto. Remember the Alamo, remember Goliad is the battle cry. When the smoke clears, a new republic is born, so big no one can tell the limit of its boundaries. These monuments symbolize the heroic, gallant deeds of Texans to establish a republic and throw off the yoke of an unyielding dictator. German immigrants settled in Fredericksburg, north of San Antonio. These Sunday houses provided Saturday night accommodations for those who lived too far to arrive in time for church on Sunday morning. Such hospitality was commonplace. Many immigrants from Alabama and Tennessee settled in the northeast section. Some communities have changed little from their early days. Old-timers still enjoy their favorite game of dominoes. Sacred harp singing originated in Elizabethan England. Its distinction is calling the scale consisting of 3 notes. These notes are repeated twice, and a dominant 7th is added to introduce the new position. In the printed music, notes are recognized by their shape rather than their position on the staff, a system devised over 100 years ago. A sing can be an all-day affair, with only time out for a picnic lunch. Texas became the 28th state of the Union in 1845, and bluebonnets were proclaimed the state flower. Freedom and limitless opportunity existed in this last frontier. Man's accomplishments were limited only by his capacities. By 1860, Jefferson, the metropolis of East Texas and the steamboat terminal from New Orleans, was called the Mother of Texas. Most of the population of 23,000 lived in relative luxury upon the profits from the products of North Texas and those of foreign lands. Jay Gould, railroad magnate, realizing the potential of Jefferson, came to discuss the right-of-way for one of his railroads. He stayed at the Excelsior Hotel and argued that his proposition would make Jefferson even greater. The people spurned his ideas and talked of the riverboat traffic and the overland supply wagons. Who would change this for the iron horse with its smoke and noise? In leaving, Gould angrily signed the hotel register, "The End of Jefferson," and said, "Grass will grow in your streets unless you allow my railroad through your town." He placed his railroad 3 miles away, and Jefferson slept on in quiet oblivion. Near the town of Mission, in the lower Rio Grande Valley, the Oblate Fathers planted our first orange groves and established an outpost in 1849 to bring religious culture to this area. The original chapel of La Lomita is a memorial to men like Father Enrique, who rode horseback to visit his congregation. Forts along the Butterfield stage route in West Texas gave assurance to the settlers. Stone and adobe buildings of Fort Davis now stand like giant sepia skeletons. Indian Emily, an Apache, whose love for an officer at Fort Davis induced her to warn of an Indian attack, was accidentally shot by a sentry. Texas Rangers helped protect the settlers against outlaws in this new frontier. Stagecoach drivers and passengers braved the dangers of weather, hunger, and robbery on trips to California, a jolting ride that took 30 days. Stories told by Cabeza de Vaca of treasure in the 7 cities of Cibola far to the northwest brought ill-fated expeditions into this region of the New World. Prospectors, too, brought new life to the west. The Terlingua cinnabar deposit was one of the largest quicksilver mines in the world. it produced over 50 years. The name Terlingua was derived from 3 Indian tribes speaking 3 different languages. The owner, Chapito or Little Man, controlled everything in secret. All that could be seen were the smelters and the burro teams hauling flasks over rough mountain trails. Legend claims that Chapito's ghost still roams these mountains and the overgrown cemetery, for paths of glory lead but to the grave. Other prospectors, armed with seismograph and rotary drill, discovered oil, the real lifeblood of the state. When the Lucas Gusher punctured Caprock at Spindletop in 1901, it erupted 75,000 barrels of oil per day, which changed the future of the world and even the history of the world. The opening of an East Texas oil field proved to be another bonanza, and soon Texas was producing more oil than the world could use. The price fell to 5 cents per barrel, and the entire industry panicked. By the mid-1930s, production regulations were enforced, and order was restored. The early missions were great establishments, which later became the nuclei of large ranches. By 1770, Espiritu Santo, near Goliad, claimed 40,000 cattle. Bleached animal bones are found on the prairies, where herds of buffaloes once roamed extensively. Buffaloes provided meat, shaggy hides, and bones for fertilizer. These first cattle in North America, known as the Longhorns, were brought in the galleons of Spanish colonists. They adapted to the Great Plains and became the nucleus of the cattle empire. Charles Goodnight blazed a trail for his cattle to the staked plains of the Panhandle. The spectacular Palo Duro Canyon forms a 120-mile rift. Trail drivers are credited with opening the West, and the traditions of many pioneer cattlemen ride high on the dust of the prairie. A cowboy is part legend, leather, and maverick, and must know what a cow is thinking, be an individualist, and loyal to his brand. On payday, the lusty open-range towns boomed in the 1870s, and variety theaters provided entertainment. Customers and bartenders dodged when bullets flew. About 1880, the crossing of the Longhorn with the British Hereford began. This produced a higher grade of beef, but these cattle suffered from drought and insects. About this same time, barbed wire was introduced, and $500 offered to any cowboy who could drive his worst fence buster through the new wire. The idea of fencing ranges spread, helping to bring order to the vast grazeland. An important event to the cattlemen was the importation of the Brahma from India in the early 1900s. These cattle could survive the most trying range conditions without suffering, and were much larger and fatter. The crossbreeding of the Brahma and the Shorthorn on the King Ranch produced the only true cattle breed ever originated in America, the Santa Gertrudis. Today, ancestry is important to the cattlemen, but formerly the only pedigree needed was a brand. By 1885, Texas needed a new Capitol building. It was purchased with over 3 million acres of panhandle land. As the rolling tumbleweeds move steadily forward, so has our Texas heritage developed in growth and maturity.